تلفظ اللہ کسی کو تکلیف نہیں دیتا مگر اتنا ہی جتنا اس کی طاقت میں ہے، اس کو ثواب بھی اسی کو ملے گا جو ارادے سے کیا، اور اس پر عذاب بھی اسی کو ہوگا جو ارادے سے کیا۔ اے ہمارے رب، ہم پر پکڑ نہ فرما اگر ہم بھول جائیں یا چوک جائیں۔ اے ہمارے رب، اور ہم پر کوئی سخت حکم نہ بھیج جیسے ہم سے پہلے لوگوں پر آپ نے بھیجا تھا۔ اے ہمارے رب، اور ہم پر ایسا بار دنیا یا آخرت میں نہ ڈال جو ہم برداشت نہ کر سکے۔ ہم سے درگزر فرما اور ہم کو بخش دے، ہم پر رحم فرما، آپ ہمارے کار مالک ہیں، اور ہمیں کافروں پر غلبہ اور نصرت عطا فرما۔ صدق اللہ العظیم، سورہ البقرہ ورس 286۔ جزاک اللہ خیر۔
Right, Aisha, are you ready? Ready to go?
Yes, sir. Okay. But this is not going, sir. This is this whole thing.
Okay, fine. That's okay. We will. Let's carry on. Yeah, because
okay, sir.
I think we've lost a lot of time.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to mute myself, and I request all participants to mute their videos as well, please. Thank you. Aisha, you can start. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi zidni ilma, Rabbi zidni ilma, Rabbi zidni ilma. So today we have all gathered here in this virtual platform to discuss about rubber dam and important aspect in dentistry, which is considered the gold standard for isolation. So given the present scenario, everybody is like in a state of asks that we stay in isolation. So coincidentally, and since this topic is very much hyped, or this is the need of the hour, we are going to discuss rubber dam, or let's say that let's dam it. So by the end of the topic, I guess my topic for today is rubber dam, a gimmick or a necessity. By the end of this webinar or the discussion, I'm sure all of us will be convinced that rubber dam is a necessity and not a gimmick. So all of us, when we graduate from our dental schools or even our medical friends, we take the Hippocratic oath of doing no harm. That means we ensure we take the oath on that we will work according to the best of our ability without harming the patient. That also
Sorry, Aisha.
Yes, sir.
There is some disturbance where you're talking from. Do you mind just checking if nobody's around, or if you close the doors?
Yes, sir. Okay, 1 second.
Yes, please. Please do.
So to do no harm, we take the oath of doing no harm. To that means that we take this into consideration, that we will work according to the best of our ability and will not exceed whatever it is not within our limits. That also ensures harm prevention from the patients, and by using rubber dam, we are ensuring our patient a comfortable treatment time. Most of the times dental appointments are longer or multiple visits are required. So that time, if a patient is comfortable, he or she will happily complete his or her treatment. And if after 1 or 2 sittings or after 1 or 2 appointments, if it is very much uncomfortable, the patient might end up not completing his or her treatment. The usage of rubber dam not only enhances, not only gives the comfort to the patient, it also gives operator comfort, because using rubber dam, I think, is the most ergonomic accessory or ergonomic procedure to do to practice dentistry. We can add life to our clinical years if we are using proper posture. And for proper posture, again, when we are using rubber dam, that comes with it. So I can say that isolation is the key. So in today's evening, we'll be covering the topics like introduction. I'll be covering in 3 parts, like introduction, the history of rubber dam, its classification, advantages and disadvantages of why you will be using rubber dam. And in the next part, I'll be discussing about, or maybe we'll be walking a small journey. I'll be walking you all through a small journey of armamentariums, and again in the armamentariums we have different like instruments which we need to use for proper isolation. Those are rubber dam sheets, templates, rubber dam frame, again forceps, punch, and other auxiliary or accessories. The most important is clamp. We'll be having a discussion on that as well. And in the third part, we will be discussing about the placement of rubber dam, the errors or the problems which we face while using rubber dam, and also isolation in pediatric patients, the removal of rubber dam, and after that we will be having some takeaway points and also references. So let's get started. So I'd like to start with a quote by Dr. S.C. Burnham, who introduced rubber dam into dentistry some 150 years ago. He quoted it rightly that it is hard to believe that a sheet of rubber can make you feel more comfortable about dental treatment and allow us to do better dentistry, but rubber dam can. He was very much right. And see, we can get the justification if something was introduced some 150 years ago, and we now in the 20th century or in the 20th millennium, we can say, why are you not using it? We should think about it. Like, what's like what's keeping us from not using it? This might have been very much important. That's why it was introduced in some 150 years ago. And with all the advancements in the field of isolation or in the field of dentistry or any other field of science or medicine, we have the ease of using many instruments, which was very difficult back then. Back then they really used to take painful time, or the pain using those rubber dams or complaints. And during the initial time, like 1864 to 1870 or 1880, there were no proper instruments for rubber dam, so it was really tough during those period. That's why I have just put the history just to highlight how important it is. And I think everyone should think, all of us should think about it, that why are we not using it till now? Or I'll say maybe we should start, it's high time. So these also are the instruments that were used earlier. These are obsolete and this is not used anymore. These are the rubber dam frames from the ancient times. Looking at the frames, we can see how difficult it might have been, or it would have been, to put these frames and again remove it. That was really a cumbersome procedure, but still they used it. And we have got all the ease of using, but still we are not using it. So coming to the goals of isolation, moisture control. By using rubber dam, we are having complete moisture control, or I can say moistureless field, working field, retraction and access. Yes, again we are getting retraction and access, like once we are using the rubber dam, the tongue, the cheek, all those hurdles are not faced by us. In the working field, we get a clean and clear working field. And once we have got a clean and clear working field, then we have the more our productivity is more. Harm prevention, again to harm prevention, like we work inside the oral cavity. That is a very small part of, and I will say this is very sensitive part of our body. This is one of the most sensitive part of our body. And the oral cavity has tongue which is constantly moving. You can't really restrict the movement of tongue. Then you have saliva, so you can't imagine, that is very difficult for me to imagine, like floating in saliva, and then the instrument floating in saliva and not landing up in the patient's throat, or the patient not swallowing it. So if we are using rubber dam, we are not in this constant fear. We are not in this constant fear that the patient might swallow or ingest anything from any of the instruments, any of the smaller instruments from the working field. With all those 3 points, then obviously we will have the ease of working. Like the working becomes, the workflow is more like efficient. Working is much more easier, because we don't have to think about anything. We just can focus on whatever we are doing. So I say that rubber dam is not the gold standard just for the namesake. It definitely had its added advantages. So this slide I have put just to my own perception, which I want to put forward to everyone, which I want to put forward
Sorry,
to
Aisha.
everyone. Yes, sir.
Can you minimize the screen and put it up again, because we still have that little thing coming up. Please move this window away from the shared application.
Yes, sir.
And is that noise coming from your side?
Yes, sir, actually.
Start.
Yes, what I was talking about was I have put this slide purposefully just to show the perception that in other parts of the body, or for any like in our medical colleagues or all medical friends, they do a lot of surgeries or minor operations and all. So have you ever seen them doing an operation or anything without isolation? No, we have never seen. I guess we have never witnessed any such condition or any such situation. So why, as a dentist, or why do we want to work without isolation? See, this is definitely better to this justifies. See, this is definitely better to have a working field like this rather than this. This is definitely this is not acceptable. By not practicing proper protocols in dentistry, I feel, according to me, that maybe we are demeaning the profession. We are not uh, achieving the highest standard of professionalism which our other colleagues or other colleagues in other professions are doing. So by that way, we are giving a chance to quacks and all, and that's why I think dentistry is where it stands today. If we change this perception of ours, and if we change ourselves towards practicing highest professional dentistry, then, or the ethical dentistry, then I think dentistry will not be where it is today. This is just my point of view. So coming to the methods of isolation, we have different methods of isolation. We like direct methods and indirect methods. Again, in direct methods, we have like other measures also through which we can achieve isolation, but not as much isolation or proper isolation as we will achieve using rubber dam. So we have other methods such as cotton rolls, saliva ejectors, retraction cords, and Teflons and mouth props. This all gives us isolation, but you know that will provide isolation just for the name of it, and that becomes much cumbersome. If we are using cotton rolls, then we definitely have to change too many times. Saliva ejectors also, that doesn't work so much of fine. Retraction cord or Teflon, the same for that, and mouth props. For indirect methods, we have relaxed patient, local anesthesia, and drugs. And drugs, we have anticholinergic drugs and anti-anxiety drugs. This reduces the salivation in a patient's mouth. Local anesthesia.
Sorry, Aisha. Sorry
Yes, sir?
to interrupt you. You know, there is a small icon coming showing as a slideshow resume screen. Can you move it down? Just move the toolbar down. Thank you. You can resume.
Okay, so thank you. Yeah. So yes, relaxed patient, local anesthesia, and drugs. A relaxed patient is like anxious patient always hypersalivates, maybe, or most of the times. Local anesthesia, because of its vasoconstriction properties, reduces some amount of salivation, and if some patient is on anticholinergic drugs or anxiety drugs, then that also reduces. But we can't call all these methods as indirect methods of isolation. This aids in reducing salivation of the patient. So this, according to me, I don't think so this is an indirect method, though this is given in the book what I have seen. So just here I have put pictures of the direct methods of the different direct methods of salivation, isolation. So why do you need to use a rubber dam? I guess as we'll proceed with the discussion, we will understand, or we will like have an idea of, yes, we need to use rubber dam and why we need to use one. Given the current scenario, like dentistry and the is also affected. Dentistry is not also affected. It's affected in profusely because of the aerosols that is created while we work, and because of those aerosol splatter, we will be risking our lives and the lives of the patients also. And this pandemic not only has created an havoc in just the world, but dentistry, it has brought us to our knees. So how this pandemic and rubber dam is associated? So let me explain. For example, say this is an index patient. If visits your clinic and this is asymptomatic and you don't know, you have taken her history and all, she is fine, temperature, and when she is sitting on the chair, you were doing the procedure, and the dental assistant is helping you. And if we are not using rubber dam, then the splatter or the aerosol that comes because of the use of the rotary instruments, if we are using any, or because of the patients, most of the times they just wipe their mouth and put their hand and they will clean their hand on the arm of your chair only. So I have noticed that many a times. So I don't know if anyone else has done or seen that. So in this way, this patient, the splatter or the salivation or this thing, whatever we are getting from this patient, or let's call her an index patient, these areas become acts as fomites. So when we are touching it, or our assistant is touching it, or the next patient who is coming in takes those fomites, those fomites and takes home the virus. So in that way, our dental clinic will become an epicenter or a transmitter center for the virus. So rubber dam is much more important. And as it is seen in the CDC guidelines also, they have recommended the use of rubber dam and high volume suction to reduce aerosols generated during the dental procedures. Again, coming to the advantages of using rubber dam, here you can see a patient is lying with the rubber dam on, and this is me. I'm working on my father. This was a proud moment for me to work on my father, to do treatment for my father. But that was much more satisfactory when he was snoring throughout the treatment, when he was sleeping peacefully, and while I was working on him. That gave me an immense pleasure. That gave me satisfaction of I just can't explain the satisfaction I have got by working like this. That he is not being disturbed. He doesn't have to get up and speak. That will be much more problematic. He having so many other medical issues also. So while he was snoring nicely, while he was sleeping, lying there, and I was working for him, that was very pleasant. So I guess for all the patients, if we are using rubber dam, so we get such feeling, and our focus increases. We when we don't have to think of so many things at a time, then we will definitely we increase our focus on whatever we are doing. So our productivity increases. Here you can see in the next picture, then endodontic file has reached the gut of a patient, and this definitely is a life-threatening procedure, life-threatening condition or situation for the patient, and definitely and like a very bad situation or scenario for us as professionals, because this will lead to litigation charges or legal problems. So to save ourselves and the patients, we need to use rubber dam. This won't happen if we have used one rubber dam in the first place itself. The patient wouldn't have had to go through such pain, and even we could have saved our back or the our practice from the legal charges. So coming to clean working field, clean and dry working field. See here I have put a picture. You can see that 3 tooth is isolated. I was working on this tooth. I purposefully isolated 3 tooth because this premolar also needed a restoration. That's why I purposefully I was doing endodontic treatment for this molar. But you can see the only thing that is visible is the tooth that are isolated. You don't have to like think about where the tongue is, why the patient is moving the tongue so much, why are the saliva coming up and all. The patient, and most importantly, the patient will not talk throughout the procedure. Since our dental appointments are longer, usually takes long times, or maybe sometimes multiple visits. You know, patient doesn't have a single tooth, he have 32 teeth. So if he is visiting for a single tooth or say 4 5 teeth also, then also maybe he will have to visit. And with this the patient gets to know us well, and the patient tends to talk much during his treatment. He will be asking, oh, can I spit, can I wash my mouth, can I gargle, or how much time it will take, doctor, and all. I have faced these problems, and this used to irritate me a lot when I was not using rubber dam. But after I started using rubber dam, these problems just vanished, and I have seen that this has got me more calmer, and I can practice or I can focus on whatever work I am doing without wasting any time with the patient. So that is an added advantage, I think, of using rubber dam. Again, we see retraction and access as told. We don't have any other thing. We don't need another hand to retract the tissue, or we don't need to ask the our assistant to retract it, or engage one hand retracting the tissue. That is painful also. So we save ourselves from that pain also, and our assistant also, so we can work very nicely. Sorry. Patient operator protection. We are not only protecting the patient by preventing from the adversities, preventing him from the adversities that might have taken place, God forbid, but we are saving ourselves also. How we are saving ourselves is the saliva or the splatter that is coming, that comes from the patient's mouth. We are not reaching, that is not reaching us directly, first of all. And secondly, this is since we are working under rubber dam, we can work in an ergonomic posture. And when I'm saying that this we are working in ergonomic environment, that means we are saving our back, because cervical problems, back problems, and neck problems, that comes as a professional hazard for us. But once we are using rubber dam and we have taken up the ergonomic side of practicing, then we are saving ourselves, and that in turn is like adding much more years or happier, that makes our lives much more happier. We will not be a grumpy dentist, at least in our later lives. So uninterrupted working flow. With all the previous points, I guess now we can say that the workflow will be uninterrupted, because as said by one of a motivational speaker, or I have read in one of his book, Robin Sharma, he said that when your brain occupies from morning to evening, small like when you heed attention to small details and of everything, then at the end of the day you are left with no energy. Your brain is left with no energy to focus on something, or not end of the day, by the midday you are drained out of energy. So here also I think that applies here, because since we'll not be thinking about the petty issues after facing a rubber dam, petty issues, so we can completely focus, we can completely concentrate on the work we are doing. And once we have completely concentrated with our working, the production or the productivity of work, whatever we will be doing will be increased many folds. And yes, some people say that yeah, placing and taking a removal of rubber dam takes a lot of time, but think of it this way: if we are doing if we are say for 2 to 3 minutes it takes, once you know or once you learn the tips and tricks or techniques of placement of rubber dam, and if you are putting a rubber dam, so say for 2 to 3 minutes, but we are saving the time, that time that used to would have been taken by our patient by spitting or changing of cotton rolls or asking your patient asking your assistant to retract time and again. So we are changing much more time. I think 2 to 3 like 2 times or 3 times more time we are saving ourselves. So that definitely gives for an uninterrupted workflow and better working efficiency. Here I have put another picture of foldable rubber dam. You see, most of the procedures we do endodontic treatments are the bread and butter of dentistry, definitely. So while doing endodontic procedures, we need to take intraoperative radiographs. So we'll say that taking the whole frame out and then putting the radiograph or the sensor, whatever we put, that becomes much more cumbersome or that takes time. But with the help of the rubber dam like hinged frame or the foldable frame, that becomes easier. You just need to here you just need to fold the frame this way, and once you fold the frame like this, then you have access to the you have access to the oral cavity, and you can put the a sensor or like a radiograph IOPR, but and take the radiographs. So that becomes much more easier. I guess if everybody is not getting bored. So coming to contraindications, like there are no definitive contraindications up to, if we are using rubber dam properly, there is no definitive contraindications. But to name some, we have few like allergy. The people who are allergic to latex, you cannot use a latex rubber dam. You cannot use rubber dam on them. But then we have a solution for that also. We can use non-latex rubber dams. Nowadays we have non-latex rubber dam as well, so we can use that. So I don't think so this is a contraindication for using rubber dam. Then claustrophobia, obviously you cannot ask the patient, you cannot just directly ask a patient who is claustrophobic to use rubber dam, or you cannot just directly put him, but you can counsel him nicely. And once a patient is made aware of the advantages of using rubber dam or advantages of using rubber dam, then he will definitely agree for the procedure. And once he agrees for the procedure, and once you have done the counseling, I think you can make few punches, like you can make few changes as a clinician. Clinician courtesy, you can make few punches in the opposite side of the working field, so that the patient feels more comfortable or at home. So again, I don't think so patient who are claustrophobic are contraindicated. For patients with respiratory distress, or those patients who are having severe respiratory distress will not come for dental treatment, first of all, obviously, because they have a major thing to take care of. And once they have taken care of the respiratory distress, and if at all they come, then if we are not able to use rubber dam, then better extract it, because there is no condition in which tooth is not restorable. Tooth is restorable, or conditions where rubber dam is contraindicated and you save the tooth. So it's better if you are unable to isolate the tooth, better extract it. This is not what I have said. And again, we'll be talking about, here I have missed writing on the slide about the mouth breathers and epileptic patients. For epileptic patients, we will take on case by case. We will not. There is no hard and fast rule that yes, we will do, because every patient is different. And for epileptic patient, you can just study him nicely, or you can talk with his doctor, and you can know and what are the trigger factors of epilepsy, his epileptic status. And after we know all the things, then we can again go for using of rubber dam. And according to me, what I think is, what is my perception is that for epileptic patient, if we are using rubber dam during a dental treatment, say for example, he has got fits, and if we are not using rubber dam, the patient will just move or jerk. And during that time, if we are not using rubber dam, there are chances that he will swallow the smallest instruments present in his mouth, or he will ingest that. So if we are using rubber dam using the proper protocol, then I think we can save him and us from that. And for mouth breathers, this is difficult to keep their mouth closed, but you can definitely modify according to the patient needs as a clinician, according to patient needs. On maybe we can punch holes, maybe we can punch holes, or maybe we can just raise one side of the rubber dam sheet with the one side of the rubber dam sheet, and tie it with a mosquito forceps or a needle holder, and just put it in that way, so that the patient feels the patient is able to breathe, and so we can go ahead with the usage of rubber dam. So coming to the armamentariums, do we need to discuss anything, or should I continue with the instrument part?
Please continue, because you'll be answering questions in the end. I think we've already gone quite a bit into time, but I'll give you more time to complete. So please continue completing the slide.
Okay, so thank you, sir. So armamentarium, like a soldier is can't is useless in a battlefield if he doesn't have the weapons to fight a battle. So likewise, if we don't have the proper instruments or proper armamentarium for our procedure, then we cannot really carry out the procedure we are thinking to carry out. So for in armamentariums, we will be having a detailed discussion of rubber dam sheets, rubber dam templates. Then we have rubber dam frames, forceps, punch, clamps, floss, and widgets. Those comes in auxiliary or accessories. Lubricant jelly, that also comes as an auxiliary or accessory, and rubber dam napkins. So coming to rubber dam sheets, we have different types of rubber dam sheets, like latex sheets and non-latex sheets. As I have told earlier, that for patients who are allergic to latex, we can use non-latex sheets. So latex sheets that comes in different sizes, different colors. Non-latex sheets, rubber dam sheets or latex sheets, these are made of the principle of this latex sheets are that it has a property of resilience and elasticity. This elasticity helps us to stress the rubber dam sheet while we punch hole or while we engage it around the clamp. And resilience helps in getting back to its original shape once it is seated around the tooth. So we have non-latex sheets. Again, for non-latex sheets, these are not as much elastic as or as resilient as the latex sheets. But yes, we can solve the purpose with the latex sheets, non-latex sheets. And another thing is, like, we cannot just keep a large stock of rubber dam sheets and say that yes, I have purchased a great stock, big stock, and it will last for all. We should always take care that you don't stock up much of rubber dam sheets, because if we are stocking it up for much longer time, and if we are not using, those sheets loses its elasticity, and once the rubber dam sheet loses its elasticity, it will tear. It will once you will punch a hole and try to take it, then it will tear apart. Or while you will be trying to use it, trying to place it into the tooth, this will tear, or the isolation won't be proper. So this is better to get your sheets from someone who keeps latest stocks, and obviously check for the expiry dates that you need to contact with your dealer. So coming to the other types of sheets, that we have thin sheets, medium, heavy, extra heavy, and special heavy. The diameter or these sheets are from 0.15 millimeter to 0.35 millimeter. Thin sheets, I don't think so is used much. At least I don't use thin sheets. For me, medium sheets are used for endo, and it is said that medium sheets are used for endo widely, and for restorative procedure or for bonded dentistry, or for say we are bonded dentistry, be it cementation or restoration or veneers or anything, direct or indirect, we will be using heavy or extra heavy sheets, because those heavy sheets gives us much more tissue retraction than the medium sheets. And medium sheets are fine because while taking radiographs and all, intraoperative radiographs and all, that works fine. You can just you can at least see or where you are placing the sensor and all. So medium sheets are comfortable or suitable for endodontic procedures, and the heavy, extra heavy, and special heavy will go for restorative procedures or bonded dentistry. According to the size, we have three sizes available, that is 4.4 into 4, 5 into 5, and 6 into 6. 4 into 4 is for pediatric patients, 5 into 5 again is for pediatric patients, and 6 into 6 pediatric or adult you can use. Again 6 into 6, that is widely used. Most of us, at least even me, I am using 6 into 6. I have never used the 5 into 5 or anything else other than 6 into 6 for adult patients. Here you don't need to have extra seat for pediatric patients. If you say that, yeah, I only have a stock of 6 into 6 sheets and I don't know how to use it for rubber dam, you can just always after placing the rubber dam, you can just trim off the here I'll show you that after once you have placed the rubber dam, you can just trim off the excess. You can just trim off the excess sheet that comes. Once that is trimmed off, you can go on working. So again, we have the sheet, we have a dull surface and a shiny surface. The shiny surface reflects light, and this is more slippery. That's why that is towards the this surface is shiny, and this is a dull surface. So this is a dull surface, as you can if you can appreciate it in the video. This surface is towards the operator, like we will be holding the rubber dam sheet like this. This shiny surface will go towards the patient, and the dull surface will be towards us or the clinician. Otherwise it will destruct light, and that will be a problem for illumination. So coming to templates, we have different types of templates like perforated, non-perforated, and we have another newer addition, that is spec dam templates. As long as we are able to punch mark on our rubber dam sheets, doesn't matter we are using a perforated one or a non-perforated one. At least I don't, it doesn't matter for me. So maybe some other clinician may prefer using perforated or non-perforated, that is personal choice, but I prefer using a non-perforated one, which I get with rubber dam like sheets, and that works fine for me. So again, coming to frames, we have two types of frames based on the material used, that is stainless steel frames and plastic frames. For stainless steel frames, again we have this these are sturdy, and this obviously lasts for a longer period of time. This is autoclavable, but the only problem, this secures the dam nicely, because you can see there are prongs, these are sharp prongs, but the one disadvantage is that there are less prongs. But when you will see the plastic frame, these have much more number of these points to secure the rubber dam. And moreover, it doesn't since it is radio opaque, so this disturbs in the intraoperative radiograph, but plastic frame doesn't hinder or doesn't come between the treatment while we are taking intraoperative radiograph. So again, in plastic frame, we have different types of frames. That is, we have an Nisgard OSPI frame, that is an octagonal shaped frame, which fits, I don't have this one to show. Uh, this this is an octagonal shape frame which just covers the patient's mouth. So I think isolation is much more better. I have not tried one, so I'm waiting to try one. On here we have hinged frame, as I have shown you earlier. The hinged frame that definitely that definitely has its added advantages. Another frame we have in addition is safety frame. The name itself suggests safety frame. In other frames, see, we secure the dental dam in these points, and if it slips, then there is a chance that the rubber dam sheet will slip, or maybe this will hinder our isolation during the treatment procedure. So, but in this sheet, in this frame, in this particular frame, you don't have to think about it. Once you place the frame, and you since it has a hinge, and the frame get locks, we inside within the rubber dam sheet gets locked inside the frame, and there is less tension in the frame also, and there is no you don't have to worry about the frame, the rubber dam sheet getting loosened or opened from the points. So coming to rubber dam forceps, rubber dam forceps is an important tool, since we use it for carrying our clamps. We use the forceps to engage it within the around the holes in the clamp, and then carry it in the patient's mouth. What is important about this is that most of the times we once we have engaged it and we have taken it carried it to the patient's mouth, while we need to disengage it, the clamp doesn't come out easily, it gets stuck. So that is one major problem, because if it gets stuck, then while we will try, we cannot just forcefully take it out, it have to come out of its own. It has this thing one so I think rounding of the problem, the rounding of the, making the beaks less convex, will solve this problem. If at all we are facing the problems. Again, in forceps also, we have different types of forceps, that is Washington forceps, ivory brewer type, and a lightweight forceps. I myself prefer using Washington forceps, that is liked by me. Coming to punch, we have two types of punch, that is single hole punch and multiple hole punch. Those holes in again, in multiple hole punch, we have two types, Ainsworth and ivory type. For Ainsworth also we have or ivory, we have one have 5 number of holes, the other have 6 number of holes. So the hole the diameter of the hole ranges from 0.7 millimeter to 2.0 millimeter. The most important thing that part of the rubber dam punch, is the rotating table. We need to know about it, because we will be punching holes in our rubber dam sheet using this rotating table. We should make sure that the plunger and the hole aligns with each other when we are punching a hole, and also the mark in our rubber dam sheet. The largest hole is for an anchor tooth, or some people really have big molars. So the largest hole is for those tooth. This is the mostly used. This hole is mostly used for molars, because most of the times we are working on molars. This is for premolars or canines. We can use also. This is for maxillary incisors, and the smallest hole is for mandibular incisors. But there is no hard and fast rule that we need to punch hole. According to this only, that we will have to punch. If some patient are having smaller teeth, then you can punch a hole. Maybe you can use a premolar hole also for a molar isolation. As I've told, the tooth position and the see here we have a clean cart hole, or the rim of the hole is clean. The rim which you have the hole I have punched is clean. Here see, just to show that to avoid nicks or tears in the rubber dam, if we don't have if we the plunger and the hole is not in alignment with the with each other, then we will get something like that, something of the, like this sort. So this will not ensure that we will have a proper isolation, and also this may lead to leakage of dam, and maybe it will also lead to tearing of dam. So coming to clamps, we have classified clamps in different types. Like we have winged clamps, we have wingless clamps, we have active clamps or we have active clamps, and we have passive clamps or regular clamps. We use clamps according to the situation. Winged clamps have an advantage that it gives you more working area. The working field will be more. Whereas in wingless, the working area is restricted, or the working area is comparatively small, working field is comparatively small than the winged clamp. But another disadvantages is that of the winged clamp is that while you are engaging on the tooth that is clamped, if that has a proximal preparation, and if you need to restore that teeth or place matrix, that becomes an impossible task, because we really but in that case, wingless clamp helps. And we have active clamps and we have passive clamps. For passive clamps, we use for regular isolation, isolation procedures. And also these passive clamps or regular clamps are used for tooth with crown. There is another modification that clamp cushion is available. So the clamp doesn't put pressure, or the pressure is not generated directly onto the tooth or the crown, leading to dislodgement of the crown. For active clamps, these are used for in cases where we need to the beak of the clamp to actively or cervically engage it more, because since you can see in the beaks of the clamp, this is apically, this has convert apically, so this engages the tooth. These are used mainly for partially erupted tooth, or tooth which is broken down severely, and you definitely need to get, or the tooth maybe we have done a gingivectomy, or the tooth really needs some tight support. For those case procedure, so for those situation, we will be using active clamps. Again, if we are using active clamps for normal procedure, like it gives a sunken appearance of the tooth. Once we have started with the treatment, and if you are using an active clamp for normal isolation, tooth isolation, which you could have done using a normal regular clamp or passive clamp, then it gives a sunken appearance that the tooth has sunk, just given within inside the clamp. But for passive clamp, that is not the scenario. So coming to the parts of clamps, we have we need to know the clamps, the science behind it, the science behind it, to really know how to select a clamp for a specific tooth or the target tooth. So here we have the spring of the clamp, the holes. This is a winged clamp, so you can see the wings, and these are the beaks. These are the 4 beaks. This is the diameter of the clamp. This is these 4 points or these 4 beaks we engage while we are should be engaged nicely while we are clamping onto the tooth. When we are putting a clamp onto the tooth, or when we are trying to do isolation, yes, in types of clamps, we have other clamps also. Like recently, different company has come up with plastic clamps or polymer clamps. Those are much more softer onto the in the tissues. So, which clamp we need to use where? So, for anterior teeth, you will use double board clamps. Double board clamps, again you can see I have put here 3 clamps. Sorry, this is a regular clamp, this is or a passive clamp, but these 2 clamps are active clamps. So when I need to engage subgingivally or address an issue or caries or any defect that is subgingival or below the margin of the gingiva, then I'll be using these active clamps. Coming to the premolar clamps, we have different types of premolar clamps as well, just as we have for the anteriors. Then again we have molar clamps. My go-to clamp is, these 2 are my go-to clamps, and for maxillary molars I use this. The clamp speaks for itself. You can see too many marks on the clamps. I have used them a lot, and this is this I use or prefer when I have, this is a number 8 clamp. This is an active clamp. This I prefer whenever I am having a tooth that is not completely erupted or partially erupted or severely broken down tooth. For severely broken down tooth, if the diameter of the clamp and the tooth is fine, then this is my preferred clamp of choice. So we have other clamps such as brinkers. These are very important, or just love these clamps because of the retraction, or because of the tissue retraction they provide, or I just simply love this clamp. So this works as a good tissue retractor, and this is used for class 5 restorations and also for cementation of veneers, because this gives us much more space or working area. This doesn't really interfere with say for example we need to do crown cementation or veneer cementation. In the next slide I will be showing you. See, here I have put a picture of for crown cementation I have used brinker clamp. So just think, if I would have used a double board clamp, would that have been possible so easily to retract, get this much of retraction and have this much of working space or field, or this while we are placing or cementing crown, we need to have a straight line access. So this straight line access is not is hindered when we are using double board clamps. So for brinker clamps, this is the added advantages, and this is the reason why I love this clamps so much. We have brinker clamps for molars also. That works very fine and nice when we are doing isolation, or when we want to work on last molars, or like third molars or eights. Brinker clamps, those brinker molars are just awesome, because it doesn't take up much space, it doesn't interfere with the retromolar region or retromolar region, and it takes up really less space, and you can achieve the desired isolation also.
Aisha, sorry to disturb you. We finished 1 hour of our time. So if, I think we'll give you a grace of 15 minutes if it's possible, then we can go into question and answers before we finish. I mean, after we finish, yeah?
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. I'll
Thank you.
try to cover it up as fast as possible.
Please, yeah.
So coming to clamp selection, that is the crucial moment of the complete isolation, because while we are selecting a clamp, I think we will be thinking about the duration we need to, the duration for which we need to isolate a tooth. Yeah, I'll be speeding up. So we need to take care of the thing that a 4-point contact is maintained while we are selecting a clamp. Okay, let me explain it here only. See, if we are, these are the 4 beaks that needs to be in contact with the tooth whenever we are selecting a clamp for isolation. If these are not in contact, if the 3 are in contact, then we might end up disengaging the clamp during the procedure, and the treatment and the isolation might not last for the duration we have expected. So it is very important to understand the science behind it and to understand the design of the clamp, so that how much compressive strength it applies to the tooth, and does it hurt the tooth and all. So here I'll just take a clamp and explain, because this is one of the most important part. See, we should always take care that is it visible? I guess so, yes. See, these are the 4-point contacts which need to be in touch with the tooth whenever we are selecting a clamp for a target tooth or the tooth to be isolated. And we should always think of the diameter. We should think of the mesiodistal distance, mesial and distal distance from the beaks, and also the diameter of the jaws, diameter between the 2 beaks. If that is taken care of, this diameter between the 2 beaks and the mesiodistal distance should always be smaller or lower than the vestibular or vestibular lingual or vestibular palatal distance, and also the mesiodistal distance of the tooth to be isolated. So that should be kept in mind whenever we are selecting a clamp for isolation, because we can just randomly take a clamp and you put it on a tooth. That would be very irrational to do. So coming to other type of clamps, we have extended bow clamps, and we have Hallerman clamps and Silver Glickman clamps and special Moller clamps. This set of clamps are not used with rubber dam. They are used with cotton rolls. These are not used for rubber dams. These are used for cotton rolls. I'm repeating it. And these extended bow clamps, this helps in isolation whenever we are using the distal, whenever we try to isolate the distal most tooth in the arch, that is the 3rd molar, or which is less accessible, that because it gives us more space. It because of the bows extended, it gives us more space. These we have not similar, but other companies like Care and KSK and GDC, they have come up with those clamps, but different. A little bit different than this. There are special 3rd molar clamps also, which is palatally, which is not slanted palatally, and there is no so that we it doesn't hinders the vestibular part, and doesn't so the retromolar area is not affected, or it doesn't hit into the retromolar area, and we achieve proper isolation. So coming to the accessories of the rubber dam isolation, liquid dam, here I have put a picture by Dr. Nadim Ahmed. See, if our rubber dam is leaking, then this is equal to a leaking bucket, because why are we using rubber dam? To isolate the tooth, to have a moistureless environment. And if it is leaking, that means the saliva or the clavicular fluid that is present in the mouth, definitely that is always present in the mouth, sips in slowly, so that will be like a leaking bucket. So here we have liquid dam to come to the rescue, but it is not advisable that you will just somehow isolate the tooth, or somehow put the clamp around the clamp and sheet around the tooth and then put rubber dam. That should not be done that way. There is a proper procedure. Or there, see, for example, we can see in this case the gingiva has crept up this. So this, for this part, it is really difficult to isolate the tooth. And even if we are isolating using a, I guess so, sir has used an active clamp only here. Even if we do so, but still maybe there will be a leakage of some amount of gingiva, so we cannot take the risk. While we are doing endodontic treatment, we cannot take the risk of even a drop of sodium hypochlorite. This is because most of the times we are using it in 5.5 concentration percentage, so that is really acidic, and we cannot take the risk of filling that or letting that into or letting the patient ingest that. Or even for bonding, like for creating the pre-endo buildup or restorative procedure also, we cannot do that. So we will be using liquid dime as an auxiliary or accessory. The other uses of rubber dam also we can use it for fluoride application, because we don't want the fluoride to go inside the mouth. We can put tongue packs on, then for it acts as a gingival barrier. And also for bleaching procedures, for bleaching that is really acidic, and we don't want we don't want the pink to be disturbed or to be hurted, so we should take care of that. That's why we will be using a liquid dam. Again, the other accessories that we have in rubber dam are dental floss, rubber dam napkins, widgets, and lubricating gel. Dental floss I'll be discussing because this is very much important, and rubber dam napkins we use so that the patient saliva doesn't drool over the face whenever he is sleeping or whenever he is lying and we are working. And most also it takes care of the contact dermatitis because of the latex coming in touch with the perioral tissue. We have widgets, we can buy it, or we can also cut a part of the rubber dam sheet while we have cut a part from the corner and use it as widgets. These are used mostly when you are using a single clamp for multiple tooth isolation. So we can definitely use lubricating jelly. Lubricating gel we have, this is always aqueous based jellies. With petroleum jelly is not advisable because this is hard to remove, and I myself have seen that experience that once we have put a petroleum jelly in the rubber dam, it just gets the texture is changed, so this doesn't looks nice, or this is not important. So coming to the rubber dam dental floss. Floss is used to ligate the rubber dam in place. It also, we have different types of knots for using floss. Here you can see the picture that there are maybe I'll later upload a video of how to tie a knot, single knot, or how to tie double knot, floss around the tooth. Floss is also used for around the clamp, to tie around the clamp. Tying floss around the clamp is extremely important to avoid accidents, and we should at least take an 12-inch length, otherwise it will be of no use because that is the length of the oropharynx. Here you can see that I have put a picture of floss being tied to the clamp rubber dam frame by composites. This aids, you can see the margins are clearly visible, so this opens up the margins for the this opens up the margins of isolation. And once we if the rubber dam inversion is not achieved, then we can use definitely use rubber dam floss for that. Other uses of liquid dams are, we can use it in pediatric dentistry for patients who are not who are less than 3 years of age, or who are who have developmental delays and all. So for such patients, for special children, we can use liquid dam because they don't have cognitive abilities or complete developed cognitive abilities to use a rubber dam. So we can always use liquid dam in such cases. Rubber dam also helps in behavior management for pediatric patients. Like remove the focus of the patient from the treatment. Most of the patients are needle phobic, or the fear and anxiety are the most are the two protagonists that acts between the child and the pediatric dentist. So by using rubber dam, I think we are molding his behavior. We are taking away the focus from the treatment or the fear of anxiety, because he doesn't see whatever we are doing, and hence less anxiety. And we have since we have different colors of rubber dam sheets, so we can lure the child into using different colors of sheets, and maybe that will work as a teamwork. He will get more involved in the treatment procedure, and he will, I think the patient will smile or like the dentist. For conscious sedation, also rubber dam is important, because most of the times we see smaller children have say for example for early childhood caries, there are multiple decays, and you cannot call the patient for an or patient who doesn't are not so much cooperative. For them, we can go on with conscious sedation. So again, conscious sedation, since the patient is sedated, and we have to work fast we within a stipulated period of time for many teeth or tooth. So rubber dam comes to rescue. Again, we have trap technique. This is for mainly for pediatric patients, or maybe this is a just fancy word for split dam technique, which we'll be covering in next slides. We also have conscious sedation. This is used for conscious sedation, or also for used for anterior tooth and stainless steel crown cementation. So coming to the various methods of placement, we have clamp first technique, we have dam and clamp together technique, and we have dam first and bracket or parachute technique. Of all the techniques, dam and clamp together is most widely used, and clamp first technique is not much preferred, because though it gives the visual this thing, but still it is not preferred, because the clamp might disengage. If the clamp is disengaged, then the patient might end up swallowing. So this is the disadvantages of clamp first technique. But clamp and dam technique, this is taken care of, because we are putting the clamp and the dam together into the patient's mouth, and for patient who has more of gag reflex, so we are just putting the clamp without much of invasion into his oral cavity. So that is an added advantages for this technique. Though the disadvantage is that the visual field is, while putting the dam, is less, and anyone who is not so much comfortable, or who has newer, he may end up isolating the or clamping the wrong tooth. So dam first technique, this is mostly used in anterior cases, or when we are using double board clamps, because dam first technique, we need to use dam first technique for double board clamp. Otherwise, we cannot just use it. So here is parachute technique. Here I have put a winged clamp, but this is since I don't have a wingless right now here with me, so I have put a winged clamp. This again helps. This again have advantages, like you have much of visual place to see that where you are putting the rubber dam, and it is easy also. So we coming to different types of isolation, or different isolation according to the number of tooth. We have single tooth isolation. Single tooth isolation is mostly done in case of endodontic procedure, because the treatment maneuver or the clinical maneuver, whatever we are going to do, is towards the occlusal part of the tooth, and we don't need to engage the proximal sides or mesial or distal sides. So that was single tooth isolation works fine. Multiple tooth isolation we do when we need to do proximal when we need to work on the proximal side surface of the tooth, or we need to have a have a class 2 restoration and all, then we can always go for multiple tooth isolation. At least for a single tooth, we need 3 teeth to be isolated at least. Here I have quadrant isolation and full arch isolation. See, for quadrant isolation, this is done when we need to work on multiple tooth together, and full arch isolation, I don't know if it is used much more, but that is not preferred. Like yes, when we need to work on multiple tooth or we have any special cases, because every case is different, then we can definitely go for full arch isolation. So coming to the other technique, that is the split dam technique. This is very important because oftentimes you may encounter a patient who has a breach or who has not only breach, you can see a completely damaged tooth. So how do we isolate that? We cannot just engage the clamp in that tooth. So we need to think something otherwise. So maybe split dam technique works fine for the scenario. See, here there are dotted, and the dots are taken. That here the dots are marked according to the number of the tooth present, and then again I have joined the dot. Actually, this picture is taken from Dr. Sheikh Abdul Wahid. He has joined the mark, and we will just cut through with a scissor and then place the dam inside the tooth. The other method or other technique which we can use for achieving split dam technique is we can punch the holes accordingly, place the rubber dam in the patient's mouth, and then cut through the septa of the septa interdentally, and then we can achieve split dam isolation. That we will not overcut the rubber dam sheet.
Aisha,
Yes, sir.
are we nearly finished?
Yes, sir. Some 3-4 slides more actually.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, we'll give you 5 more minutes if you don't mind. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah. So rubber dam inversion, this is very much important. This is one very important part of isolation. I'll skip all other things, but rubber dam inversion that need to be addressed. See, as soon as we are placing the rubber dam inside in the tooth, then the first thing we need to do is we need to slide the rubber dam under the gingival margin and or the under the sulcus, because once we have slided the rubber dam under the sulcus or the gingival margin, then only and moisture like tight contact or tight seal is achieved. So tight seal is achieved, and that is not possible if we are if our rubber dam is in tension. So here you can see that the floss or like anything floss ligature or nothing is used for dam inversion. Here he has here multiple tooth are isolated, and there is nice you can see inversion, rounded borders. This is called inversion around the tooth, around the neck, the tooth. Here he has put some retraction cord. Also you can use retraction cord for rubber dam inversion. You can use floss also. Even you can use teflons also in some cases where we cannot achieve rubber dam with inversion in other methods. So coming to levels of rubber dam inversion or how we achieve rubber dam inversion, we have air inversion. Like the first method is like we will put the dam, we will blow air with a 3-way syringe, and the rubber dam goes slides inside the sulcus of the tooth. So that way achieved rubber dam inversion is achieved. If it is not achieved this way, then we can always use a dental floss to slide the rubber dam sheet in the proximal contacts. Then we have inversion with knot ligatures. We can, as I have shown in one of the previous slides, that somebody has tied floss around the tooth, and this technique has 2 advantages. The 2 advantages are that the rubber dam, so the floss tightly keeps the rubber dam sheet in place, and a tight seal is achieved, and also it doesn't let the sheet slip away from the tooth. So the other one is with using Teflon tape. If you have failed with all the other three, then obviously you have another option of using Teflon tape. Here in this picture, see, I have clamped only one tooth, and in the last tooth I have used a ligature floss. I had tried a floss, cut it, and that so that helped me in isolation, achieving proper inversion, and also I don't need to use another clamp in that. So my pain is also reduced, and the patient pain is also reduced. Here are some okay, here is a case where we can see that the dam is bulging out from between the proximal contacts. This has happened. From this case, we can learn that this has happened because the holes that we have punched were not equidistant from each other. Like while punching holes, we should always respect the position of the tooth. We should always respect the size of the tooth, and we should always see where it is present in the oral cavity, the alignment of the arch. We should always do that. If we fail to achieve it with using template, then we can always take the rubber dam sheet, place it into the patient mouth, that is pre-planning, like pre-placement, and mark the tooth individually. Mark the tooth with a marker. So while we are marking the tooth with a marker, we should take care that which points to be marked. For incisors, we will mark the middle of the tooth. For the premolars or canines, we will be marking the vestibular cusp, the cusp tip of the vestibular side, and for the molars, we will be marking or pointing onto the first vestibular cusp tip. Here, see this condition in this case, it would have been impossible to achieve isolation if I have not used floss. So here I have used ligature floss as floss ligature, and I have cut the floss. That's why it's not visible. If you wish, you can just keep it also. What are the possible hurdles we face while using rubber dam? Broken clamps, leaking dam, clamp aspiration, then loose or tight clamps, and tearing of rubber dam sheets, and an off-center dam. For yes, broken clamps, this may happen, and we can avoid aspiration of the rubber dam clamps if we are using a floss. That's why I told in the beginning itself that if we are using rubber dam with proper protocol, with proper taking care of all the procedures, then all the principles, then we will not land up in such scenario. Off-center dam, this may happen because we have punched a hole too apically or too apically or too upward in the dam, so that can be taken care of. We can use double frame also, and or we can just trim off the rubber dam sheet, excess rubber dam sheet, removal of the rubber dam. So yeah, almost we are at the end of the topic. Removal of the rubber dam, just the applying is important. The way application of rubber dam is important. The proper removal of rubber dam is also important. So we should know proper removal. Rubber dam is for removal. Rubber dam is stretched. The rubber dam sheet is stretched, and the inner septa is cut with the scissors. And once the inner septa is cut with the scissors, it pulls loose. And we always should start removing the rubber dam from the non-working side, and we disengage the clamp, and then we remove the rubber dam sheets and napkins. Here I have seen how we can use a scissor to cut through the septa so that the rubber dam easily comes out. Here I'll not say much because we are already running out of time. Here is a case where we can see that the mesial margin is not visible. So I have used an active clamp over here, and you can see the after caries removal, you can see the margins are completely visible. So a good start is always half work done. So moving on to the next case also, here I have used a double board clamp for a premolar clamp, premolar isolation. So there is no hard and fast rule that you should use premolar clamps with premolars or molar clamps with molars or anterior clamps with anteriors. You can use any clamp. Just the thing is that we should take care that the radius diameter of the tooth to be isolated, and the diameter of the clamp, diameter of the jaws, between the jaws of the clamp should always be less. So here this is another case where I have put this was very difficult to isolate because this tooth was rotated, and this was the third molar, then 8, and the patient wanted to save the tooth, and even his mouth opening was adequate. So we planned for saving the tooth, and while saving the tooth we have faced problem or hurdles in isolating it. So here I don't have a picture of after using Teflon, but I have packed Teflon over here. When I see that I cannot achieve proper isolation after caries removal, I packed Teflon and I isolated it. So that was easier. And here you can see I have the proximal wall is free endo buildup is done, and in the radiograph also you can see the free endo buildup is done. So coming to the next slides, here is another case by Dr. Sheikh Abdul Wahid. Here this is already crown prepared tooth. This came for retreatment, and he has done gingivectomy over here, and with any of the procedures it was difficult to achieve isolation or achieve complete moisture control. So we used rubber Teflon tape around the tooth, and isolation was achieved. So this is a picture from my initial days of when I started using rubber dam. Here I have used an oversized rubber dam, and you can see oversized clamp, and you can see the leakage. So had I used another clamp of the smaller size, or I should have taken care of the distance from the mesial to the distal beak. So this is the reason why we should always imagine or we should always study the tooth to be isolated, and see to it that we always select a clamp which has lower width or diameter than the tooth to be isolated. So here it is leaking down. So because of improper maybe punching holes, this is a leaking dam we can see. So this can be overcome by using liquid dam. So coming to the other advancements, we have mini dam, we have optra dam, we have flexi dam, and also here we come. Here we have reached the last slide, that is what is the summary. To introduce, I will strongly recommend or advocate the use of rubber dam in our practice, or introduce a practice. I know everything that we start that we do is messy at the start and a little bit difficult in the middle, and then again it becomes fine once we are habituated with it. I think we will not as a clinician, I will tell, once I have started using rubber dam, and I nowadays today can't think of doing any case without rubber dam. So I think this will be the case with everyone, scenario with everyone, and everyone starts using rubber dam. So we have discussed the advantages of using rubber dam, the instruments used, methods of placements, instruments used where we have to take care of the instruments like dam frame. We should have a proper knowledge of the rubber dam clamps, frames and all, which to use where, otherwise we cannot achieve proper isolation. Then we have on the different methods of rubber dam placement, we have 4 methods like dam with clamp method, clamp first technique, dam first technique, and also parachute technique or bow technique. Then clamp selection, that is very important. We should always take care that 4-point contact is maintained whenever. This is the principle of clamp selection. And here I finish with, I think I have taken too much of time. Sorry about that. Thank you, everyone. Hello.
Thank you, Aisha. That was brilliant marathon session, but I think you've covered most of it. I think we've already gone into a lot of time, so I am going to request all our panelists, Dr. Shiraz Pasha and Dr. Abdul Wahid Sheikh, to turn on their videos, please. And the moderator and sorry, the panelist, I will put forward the question.
Can I just say something, sir?
Yes, Aisha, tell me.
I have teachers in this forum. Maybe they are viewing this video or may not be there viewing this video. I dedicate this presentation to them because I have realized that it is very tough task, and teaching is the most noblest thing one can do.
Brilliant, thank you. It's very heartwarming to hear that from you. All right, so shall we start with the questions?
This is for all the GDP members and all the stalwarts GDP.
Thank you, Aisha. Thank you very much. I think, Shiraz, do you want me to put the questions forward to you all?
Yeah. I think I can go through the questions.
You can, yeah? Okay, please. Yeah. Okay, please. And I'll mute myself.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Ali. Thank you. Let us begin our wonderful presentation, Dr. Aisha. Thanks for your timings. Assalamualaikum, Dr. Wahid.
Walaikum assalam.
Hope you're doing fine. Let us quickly get into the questions without wasting much time. Our first question is from Dr. Fayaz Pasha. I think this question Dr. Aisha only can answer because she was the one who mentioned about it. So if the patient is sleeping and snoring while doing treatment, should we leave him to snore, or should we take him up, or should we wake him up with or without rubber dam? This is a fun question, looks like, but it has got a serious understanding also. That's what Fayaz told. Dr. Aisha, I would like you to stop sharing the screen now. Can you do that, please?
Yes, sir, sure.
So if you can answer this question.
I don't think so. We'll need to wake the patient who is sleeping if we are going ahead with our treatment pleasantly, unless and until the patient has any other problems or it hinders our treatment procedure.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, probably that was asked on a lighter note, but she is correct. Unless it's not clinically relevant, then it's fine. And if it affects our work, then probably we must do something about it.
Because it's told that dentistry is much feared, and people, definitely fear going to a dentist or visiting it, getting dental visits. So if someone is sleeping, then we should think, yes, we are doing the better job in our part.
Okay. See, I feel what my take on this is, first and foremost, it's a very big compliment on the dentist if the patient is sleeping on the chair, because he doesn't feel any pain, and if you're doing it with feather touch hands, he usually is very comfortable and he's going to sleep. But there is a one aspect here which we need to keep it in mind, that when the patient goes into sleep or a little somber, the reflexes of the patient are little less when compared to active
Yes,
patient or awake patient. So in a situation where there is any kind of aspiration or any kind of eventuality, the patient needs to be awake. So I think Dr. Fayaz, if he's there if he's here, I think that answers his question. I think he's not there in the panel. Right. Let us move on to the next question. Then our next question is from Dr. Hausia Begum. She wants to ask you if the patient is a mouth builder, and she says it's like her. If the patient is a mouth builder like her, what do we do in such cases?
I'll just say that what I think is like maybe we'll punch holes in the opposite side of the working area. And the other thing that we can do is if we are using an octagonal frame, then maybe we can fold the non-working area of rubber dam sheet in the non-working area, and maybe use a mosquito or forceps or something to keep it there, so the patient can easily breathe.
Okay.
I have,
Anything you want to add, Dr. Wahid? Please go ahead.
yeah, I have I saw one modification in with regards to this mouth breathing thing. First of all, I have not come across any patient who has mouth breathing problem till now. But let's say there is a modification where a person used a 20 milliliter syringe and it was cut into half, and then a hole was punched on the other side, and that syringe was placed in such a manner that there was a lumen kind of open onto the dam. So if you're working on, let's say, third quadrant, the lumen or the syringe was placed on the opposite arch, so there is a continuity of air.
Brilliant, brilliant. That's a very good suggestion. Yeah.
I think it was Dr. Disha Agarwal, if I'm not wrong. She was the one who posted this photo on social media. So
Okay. So let us be clear with this. So Dr. Wahid says that we take a 20 ml syringe, the aspirator, and then we make a hole in the dam exactly the same size of the syringe and place it as a cannula kind where we can where the patient can breathe. I hope that answers Dr. Hausia's
think
question.
Dr. Koshia is asking whether we can get a photo. I guess yes, we can surely get the photo. I'll just check in my phone. It must be there somewhere, and I'll post in the group.
You can post it on the group.
I'll post
Dr.
in the
Wahid.
group.
Yeah. I think our next question also is from Dr. Hausia Begum. What are the advantages of having different colors of the sheets? Anyone can answer.
The different colors of sheets for some colors are mostly photogenic, so maybe we can have nice beautiful post-operative photographs with that, and also we can have for darker color sheets we can get a contrast photograph, even that gives great photography. And another thing is that for pediatric patients we can elude them, or you can lure them into yes, I'll use this, or maybe we can ask him to choose from the colors of the sheets, and that will be like involving the child into the treatment, and that would be that would also work as an or act as a behavior management. I guess so.
You're right. As far as fancy, the colorful things can be fancy, but yeah, we can use different colors. And for the sake of simplicity, I would say only the black and the light blue from Nictone. These are the colors which are they have some clinical role because the light color it kind of transfers a lot, it reflects a lot of light, and thereby it enhances the visualization, the image, the way the tooth and the things appear. In my documentation, I have experienced the black and the light blue. These are the two dam which increases better documentation, and visualization is much better as compared to the other colors.
Okay, I think the having colors is mainly because of giving contrast to the.
Yes.
That is the main purpose of having different colors of sheets, giving contrast to the tooth. Because our teeth are yellowish or whitish, so we can't have grayish or whitish rubber dam. So we have different colors. That is to give contrast and yes, of course, the photography. Okay, our next question is from Dr. Nadeem Ahmed. This question is to Dr. Wahid. what thickness of rubber dam sheet is preferred for isolation? Is there really a need for extra heavy and special heavy? Will medium not suffice for all, as you mentioned about its resilience?
With different brands of rubber dam sheets, I have seen that a medium a medium thickness of one particular brand may be thicker for the other. For example, Nictone, the Nictone medium is a lot more thicker than the medium of let's say Century or maybe the GDC sheets. So ultimately it's the recoil, the elasticity of the rubber dam. If it is strong enough to be stretched and recoil back, it kind of it's like a gasket holding on to the neck of the tooth. And when it comes to the extra heavy sheet, personally I believe some of the difficult isolation extra heavy rubber dam sheets comes really handy, because it can be what I do is, let's say if I have a Nictone, which is the heaviest sheet I have encountered, the Nictone extra heavy. I used to punch a very really small hole. Let's say that if it's a molar, I'll punch probably a premolar hole or maybe even smaller than that. So that, what it does it, because of the smaller hole, I will be able to stretch it a lot more. But because the rubber dam sheet is quite good in quality, it won't tear. And when it recoils back, it will hold on to the tooth really tight. So if you have a lot of inflammation around the gingiva and if there is a lot of bleeding, a strong and heavy rubber dam sheet will not only will do the isolation, but it also seals the around the neck of the tooth. So yes, but one more thing, when you're using an extra heavy rubber dam sheet, you need really good rubber dam clamps, because the rubber dam clamp should be strong enough to prevent the recoil of the dam, or else the clamp will just slip off. So whenever I use a rubber dam, extra heavy sheet, I go for brinkers, because brinkers are having smaller beak and they are much more tight as compared to the regular clamp.
Yes, brilliant, Dr. Wahid. So our let us move on to the next question. It's from Dr. Hausia. Allergic reactions to rubber dam sheet, is it immediate or delayed? And what is the protocol to manage the patient at chairside during the same, despite proper medical history?
I think personally, I have not come across a patient with this particular incident, but yes, there was one patient with some other doctor, and then there was discussion going on underneath that particular post. So usually the allergic reactions are mild, and the allergic reaction will be shown like itching and redness. So as soon as the patient complains of itching and the redness, we can give certain lotions. First of all, the rubber dam or the treatment should be discontinued, and then calamine lotion can be used, or maybe 1% hydrocortisone lotion can be used for immediate treatment. In case of delayed reaction, maybe it can delay, patient can have a delayed reaction maybe after 12 to 24 or 36 hours. And with just like with any allergic reactions, we can give antihistamines, or as I said, 1% hydrocortisone cream. One particular thing I would like to mention, that one should not use antihistamine creams and just should restrict themselves to the calamine or the hydrocortisones, because antihistamine creams are often they worsen the reaction.
Brilliant,
But
Dr. Wahid.
probably a skin specialist will be able to add much more insight and detail to the management. But because the incidence is very less, I think they should suffice our clinical scenario.
Okay. So there is one more question in the same question. She asks, what is a soft clamp?
Soft clamp, I think the Kerr company came up with this plastic clamps. I have not used them yet. I have seen them in various posts. Probably
polymer clamps, I guess.
Yeah, polymer clamps, the Kerr company. And okay. Probably the advantages they don't show on the radiograph. So, if you're doing an endodontic treatment with a single tooth isolation, and you take a radiograph, the clamp will probably there will be overlap of the image at the neck of the tooth, so you won't be able to see if there is a perforation or the file something. So such clamp may be useful in endodontic treatment. Other than that, probably that's just another variation.
Okay. So our next question is from Dr. Asim. Will the use of rubber dam affect the shade selection while doing composite or other tooth color restoration? This question I want Dr. Wahid to answer because he gave a webinar on composites.
I think usually with the usually with the shade selection thing, we are the protocol is to select the shade before any treatment or before any procedure is started. So before isolation, we should make a shade selection that will be much more natural rather than after the isolation.
Yes,
Also, as told
that's-
by Dr. Shahul Sir, he has mentioned that blue color gives rest to the eyes. So maybe we can use a blue color rubber dam.
No. You got it wrong, Dr. Aisha. See, what Dr. Wahid is saying is, we have to select the shade when the tooth is wet. Okay, we cannot isolate the tooth and then select the shade because it is going to dry the tooth and the tooth will desiccate. It will look more whiter. It will look whiter compared to the normal color. So always select the shade when the tooth is wet.
Yeah,
Am I
it's
right?
more. Yes, you're right. It's more easy and convenient, right? You, as
Yes.
soon as the patient comes after giving anesthesia, right, before the
Yes.
isolation, we can just select
Yes.
the shade and maybe take a photograph
Yes.
for future reference.
Yes. Our next question is from again Dr. Hosia. Is there a possibility of nickel in rubber dam frame cause allergy in nickel allergies? Any such incident, if pioneers have come across, wanted to see how a soft clamp looks like if possible. I think there are two questions in this. Dr. Hosia wants to see how a soft clamp looks like, and is there any nickel allergy which can come across in the clamps or the frame?
I think we mostly have stainless steel clamps, and the frame which I am using is plastic frame. So I haven't heard about any nickel allergies. Maybe some more experienced person can throw more light.
Dr.
Can
Ali,
Can I
can you answer
come
this?
in? I would like to add with regards to the allergic reactions. Now, with regards to nickel, I think nickel is obsolete. Nobody uses nickel anymore. None of the clamps which come with any sort of nickel in it. It's usually most of the countries, European countries, have banned the use of nickel because of this allergic reaction, including in crowns and other things. With regards to the rubber dam sheet, latex, and if you look at latex dam sheets, they usually come with a little bit of powder on them. And that's what is predominantly the allergen, which causes the allergic reaction. It can be immediate, as Dr. Wahid was talking about. It can be delayed as well. The patient might go back and then, call the office saying, I'm getting rashes around that thing you've used. I've got some swelling and I've got some, itchiness around that area. Now, these, you just start treating it like any other allergic reaction. If it is immediate, then you know what to do. If it is immediate, then you have to suspect an anaphylactic kind of reaction, and then you should have adrenaline in your office, and you have to treat it in that manner. With regards to soft clamp, I think I have posted. I use soft clamps quite a lot for isolation of teeth and endodontics. It's autoclavable, extremely comfortable to use. The only disadvantage with soft clamp is after repeated use, it can snap. It can just break off and it can just pop out. I've used it and I still use it. I think I posted a picture of it. If not, I'll post a picture a bit later about the soft clamps on the group so that they can have a look at it. On this, I'm going to bring in my good colleague Abid to have a chat. He's raised his hand, so let me just bring him in as well so he can join in as well. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum, Abid bhai. Could you unmute? Sorry, I'm going to unmute you.
Assalamu alaikum, Abid bhai.
Just a minute, I'm trying to unmute him. We're not able to.
Okay.
Yes. Oh, hang on.
Assalamu alaikum, sir.
There is some disturbance. Just a moment. Let me unmute him again. Okay, seems to be an issue here. Sorry about that. Let me just see if I can do it from here.
I think till then we can go to the next question, Dr. Ali.
Yeah, please do. I'll try and unmute.
Yeah,
I think he's
the
on.
next
He's on.
question is by Dr. Asim.
I think Abid's, he can hear us now. Yes, Dr. Abid, you can
Yes,
proceed.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Yeah, nice presentation, Aisha. Just want to ask about
Alaikum
the
salam.
solvents during the retreatment cases, because most of the endodontists and dentists, they will use solvents during the retreatment cases. I personally don't use. How will you manage that?
So I have never used solvent for retreatment cases. I actually use it with the
I
hair
think
files,
Dr.
bleach
Abid's
files.
question is the solvents when you use, they can, when it comes in contact with the dam, it can soften the dam and it can
Yeah.
even dissolve and cause leakage. So how will you
Yes.
manage that is his question, I think.
I think Wahid sir will answer that.
I earlier I used to use this commercial oils that are available, but I found them not so useful, and then I switched on to chloroform. So of late I was using chloroform, and yes, I found that chloroform was deteriorating the dam quality. So the only option I had was to use it very judiciously. And I first removed the gutta percha from the coronal 1/3 with mechanical instruments like GG drills and etc. So yeah, it will create not only a kind of reservoir for the solvents, and I won't have to use it in more quantity so that it will flow out and damage the rubber dam. So I just remove the coronal 1/3 with mechanical instruments, and then I place few drops very judiciously into the pulp chamber, and it won't go on to. And chloroform again, it's very volatile. So by the time we are using, there is hardly anything left into the chamber to spill over to the dam.
Okay. Right. Dr. Ali, you wanted to add something about allergy.
Yes, I mean, I just mentioned, usually it's the latex dams which cause the allergic reaction. So
I think we have, with a proper history, and we have now latex-free dams also available.
Absolutely,
We can use that.
I mean, my practice as such is a latex-free practice. We don't have anything related to latex because in the UK, latex allergy is quite severe, and people actually have had anaphylactic reactions. So we don't have any latex. Even our gloves and our dam sheets, everything is non-latex stuff, and including the syringes we use for injecting anesthetic. The cartridges are also latex-free, the rubber sponge at the bottom. Yes, but then, yeah, I'll let you continue. Sorry.
Yeah. Our next question is from Dr. Asim. How do you modify placing a rubber dam in periodontally compromised teeth? Is there any special technique which we need to employ for doing periodontally compromised teeth? Dr. Wahid?
I think it depends what periodontally compromised tooth looks like, and like in how compromised it is. Because usually, see, when we are placing rubber dam, it usually means that we are doing an endo-restorative procedure, right? And one of the criteria for selecting an endo-restorative procedure case is having a tooth which will last. So if the patient's tooth is periodontally so much compromised that one may risk, so ultimately that tooth won't be a good case for an endo or a restorative procedure. So if it's a good case for endo restorative procedure, it by default it will be a sound periodontal tooth. And if it's not, then there is no question of like doing endo or restoration procedure. But other than that, maybe let's say some recession kind of thing. Maybe tooth is not so mobile, but there is quite recession. In such case, again, one can use a smaller hole into the rubber dam, so that again it will just, no matter where the gingiva is, the rubber dam will just hold on to the tooth tightly.
All right, brilliant. I think we have only that many questions for today. Over to you, Dr. Radi.
Thank you very much, Shiraz. Just a moment, let me just see if we've not missed anything. Right. I think Dr. Ghaussi has asked for a photo demonstration of, Dr. Waheed mentioned about the rubber dam use on mouth breathers, something similar to, you said, using a syringe. Now, let me add a few things. I think you usually would face a problem when you're doing multiple teeth isolation or when you're doing a full mouth isolation in mouth breathers. But when you're doing an isolation of a solitary tooth, then they do have space on the side, so they can still breathe, mouth breather. So I think it would be helpful if, if Dr. Waheed can provide us with a little demonstration video or a little, photograph of how it's done.
I'll just search after this closing this session. I'll search the photo in my phone and then I'll share it.
Brilliant. Thank you. I do apologize. Aisha had sent us a few videos. So I think because of time constraints, what I've requested Aisha to do is to present them or post them on the group so people can, be enlightened with how to place the rubber dam. I think the video was different methods of placing the rubber dam, if I'm not wrong. Is that correct, Aisha?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And also she has a video demonstration of how to tie a floss as well. So it would be great to have that on sent on to the group as well. But thank you very much to the speaker, Aisha, for her wonderful presentation. And thank you, Dr. Waheed, for being a great panelist, and Shiraz for being a very good moderator today. Without undue delay, I think we will come to a conclusion. But we will definitely be having these talks every weekends, if possible, or every fortnight weekends, with more speakers to come. Please, looking forward to all your participation. But thank you, everyone. Thank you very much. Jazakallah khair for your participation.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for being the host today and for hosting this so nicely. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm going to end the session. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.